The silent frontier. The cerulean skies of Kepler 186 as stretched endlessly above Commander Elena Reyes as she stepped out of the landing shuttle. The alien sun, smaller and redder than Earth's, cast an otherworldly glow across the rocky landscape. Elena took a deep breath, the specially designed atmospheric converters in her suit transforming the planet's thin air into something her lungs could process. This was it, humanity's first step towards colonizing the stars. "Welcome to your new home, Commander," Captain Jared Chen said, joining her on the planet's surface. His weathered face broke into a grin, the excitement of the moment overriding the weariness of their long journey. Elena nodded, her dark eyes scanning the horizon. "It's more beautiful than I imagined, Jared, and more daunting." The landing site was a flurry of activity as the rest of the colonization team disembarked. Engineers were already setting up the prefabricated structures that would serve as their base of operations. Scientists huddled in groups, eagerly discussing their initial readings of the planet's environment. Security personnel established a perimeter, their vigilant gazes sweeping across the alien terrain. Elena's hand unconsciously moved to the insignia on her sleeve, the Earth globe intertwined with the stylized K186F that represented their new home. The weight of responsibility settled on her shoulders like a physical force. They were alone out here, over 500 light-years from Earth. There would be no quick resupply missions, no reinforcements at a moment's notice. The success or failure of humanity's first extrasolar colony rested squarely on her decisions. As she began to walk towards the center of the landing site, a young scientist rushed up to her, tablet in hand. "Commander Reyes, you need to see this," Dr. Amelia Okoye said, her voice tight with excitement and a hint of trepidation. Elena's brow furrowed as she looked at the screen. The initial geological surveys had shown nothing out of the ordinary, a rocky, terrestrial planet with a thin atmosphere and vast underground water reserves. But the image on Dr. Okoye's tablet showed something else entirely. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" Elena asked, her eyes tracing the strange geometric patterns that seemed to be etched into the planet's crust. Amelia's voice dropped to a near whisper. We think it might be artificial, Commander. These patterns, they're too regular, too precise to be natural formations." Elena felt a chill run down her spine that had nothing to do with the planet's cool temperature. "Are you saying?" "Yes." Amelia nodded, her eyes wide. "We may not be the first intelligent life to set foot on this world." The implications of this discovery hit Elena like a physical blow. Their mission parameters, their very reason for being here, could be about to change dramatically. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. "All right, Dr. Okoye. I want a full team on this immediately, but keep it quiet for now. The last thing we need is panic spreading through the colony before we even get established." As Amelia hurried off to assemble her team, Elena turned to survey the bustling activity around her. The colonists, engineers, scientists, farmers, and more, all moved with purpose, unaware of the potentially earth-shattering discovery that had just been made. Over the next few days, as the colony began to take shape, Elena found herself constantly pulled between the immediate needs of establishing their base and the tantalizing mystery that lay beneath their feet. The geometric patterns, it turned out, were just the beginning. Dr. Okoye and her team discovered a network of underground chambers, their walls covered in strange, swirling symbols that defied any known language. Artifacts of unknown origin and purpose were carefully excavated and brought to the surface for study. Each new finding only deepened the mystery. "It's incredible, Elena," Jared said one evening as they stood at the edge of the colony, watching the alien sunset paint the sky in shades of deep purple and crimson. "We came here to establish humanity's first foothold among the stars, and instead, we might have stumbled upon the greatest archaeological find in history." Elena nodded, her mind racing with the possibilities and potential dangers of their situation. "The question is, Jared, what happened to them? This civilization, whoever they were, why aren't they here now?" The implications of that question hung heavy in the air between them. Had some calamity befallen the alien civilization, or had they simply moved on, leaving this world behind like a discarded toy? As the days turned into weeks, the colony continued to grow, but so did the tension. The discovery of the alien ruins had been impossible to keep secret for long, and now every colonist was acutely aware that they might not be alone in the universe after all. Elena did her best to keep everyone focused on their primary mission, establishing a sustainable human presence on Kepler 186. But she couldn't deny the excitement and fear that permeated the colony. Every new tunnel uncovered, every strange artifact brought to the surface, only added to the growing sense that they were on the precipice of something monumental. It was nearly a month after their landing when Dr. Okoye made the discovery that would change everything. "Commander." Amelia burst into Elena's office, her usual composure completely shattered. "We found something active." Elena felt her heart rate spike. "Active? What do you mean, active?" Amelia's hands shook as she placed a small cylindrical object on Elena's desk. It was made of a material that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, and strange, pulsing lights danced across its surface. It was deep in one of the chambers we hadn't fully explored yet, Amelia explained, her voice trembling with a mixture of excitement and fear. "As soon as we brought it to the surface, it started to do this." As if on cue, the object began to hum, the lights on its surface pulsing more rapidly. Elena instinctively took a step back, her hand moving to the sidearm she always kept close. "Have you been able to determine its purpose?" she asked, not taking her eyes off the strange device. Amelia shook her head. "Not yet, but Commander, we think it might be some kind of communication device. And if it's active now..." The implication hung in the air, unspoken but unmistakable. If this was indeed a communication device, and had suddenly activated after who knows how long, who or what was it trying to contact? Elena's mind raced, weighing their options. Protocol dictated that they should quarantine the object immediately, perhaps even destroy it. But the scientist in her, the path that had driven her to explore the stars in the first place, rebelled against the idea of destroying what could be their first real chance at understanding the mysterious civilization that had once called this planet home. "All right," she said finally, her decision made. "We're going to study this thing, but under the strictest possible safety protocols. No one goes near it without my explicit authorization, and I want round-the-clock monitoring. If this thing so much as twitches funny, I want to know about it." As Amelia carefully placed the object back in its containment unit and hurried out of the office, Elena turned to look out the window at the alien landscape beyond. The red sun was setting again, casting long shadows across the rocky terrain. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of a precipice, about to take a leap into the unknown. Whatever this device was, whatever civilization had created it, humanity was no longer alone in the universe. And for better or worse, their little colony on Kepler 186 was at the forefront of this monumental discovery. As the last rays of sunlight disappeared below the horizon, Elena Reyes steeled herself for whatever challenges lay ahead. They had come to this distant world to establish humanity's first extrasolar colony. Instead, they might have just made first contact with an alien civilization. The silent frontier, it seemed, was about to hit a whole lot louder. Whispers in the void. The eerie glow of the alien device cast dancing shadows across the walls of the makeshift laboratory. Dr. Amelia Okoye hunched over her workstation, dark circles under her eyes, betraying countless sleepless nights. Commander Elena Reyes stood at the back of the room, arms crossed, watching the team of scientists work with a mixture of anticipation and dread. "Anything new, Doctor?" Elena asked, breaking the tense silence. Amelia looked up, rubbing her tired eyes. "Yes and no, Commander. We've managed to decipher some of the energy patterns the device is emitting, but we're no closer to understanding its purpose or origin." As if responding to their conversation, The device's pulsing lights intensified, casting an otherworldly glow across the lab. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "I don't like this, Amelia," she said, her voice low. "It's been 3 weeks since we found this thing, and it feels like we're no closer to answers. Meanwhile, the rest of the colony is on edge. People are starting to talk about curses and angry alien gods." Amelia nodded, her expression grim. "I know, but we can't give up now. This device, whatever it is, could be the key to understanding the civilization that came before us. It could change everything we thought we knew about the universe." Before Elena could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the complex. Red emergency lights bathed the corridors in an ominous glow as colonists rushed to their designated safety areas. "What's happening?" Elena demanded, already moving towards the door. Captain Jared Chen's voice crackled over the comm system. "Commander, we've got a situation at the north perimeter. You need to see this." Elena sprinted through the corridors, her heart pounding. As she emerged from the habitat dome, the alien landscape of Kepler 186 spread out before her. But it wasn't the familiar rocky terrain that caught her attention. In the distance, shimmering like a mirage, was a massive structure that definitely hadn't been there before. "What in God's name is that?" Elena breathed, her eyes wide with disbelief. Jared stood beside her, his face pale. "It just appeared, Commander." 1 minute, there was nothing but rocks and dust, and the next. The structure defied easy description. It seemed to shift and change as they watched, its surfaces rippling like water. Strange, glowing symbols flickered across its surface, eerily similar to those they'd found in the underground chambers. "It has to be connected to the device," Amelia said, joining them outside. "The energy signatures are nearly identical." Elena's mind raced, weighing their options. Protocol dictated caution, quarantine, perhaps even retreat. But they had come too far, risked too much, to turn back now. "Jared, I want a security team ready in 5 minutes. Full combat gear. Amelia, grab whatever equipment you need. We're going to take a closer look." As they approached the structure, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The air seemed to crackle with energy, making the hair on the back of her neck stand on end. "Commander," one of the security officers called out, his voice tense. "I'm picking up movement inside the structure." Elena raised a hand, signaling the team to halt. "What kind of movement?" Before the officer could respond, a section of the structure's shimmering surface parted like a curtain. A figure emerged, tall and slender, its body seeming to shimmer and shift like the structure itself. Elena's breath caught in her throat. After months of speculation, of poring over ancient ruins and inscrutable artifacts, they were face to face with a living, breathing alien. The being's eyes, if they could be called that, fixed on Elena. A voice echoed in her mind, bypassing her ears entirely. "We have waited so long," the voice said, a mixture of relief and sadness coloring the words. "We feared no one would ever come." Elena struggled to find her voice, her training seeming woefully inadequate for this moment. We are explorers from a planet called Earth. We came here to establish a colony, to learn about the universe. Who are you?" The alien's form rippled, and Elena got the distinct impression it was smiling. "We are the Tsar Kali, the last of our kind. And you, Elena Reyes of Earth, have awakened us from a slumber that has lasted millennia." The implications of those words hit Elena like a physical blow. The ruins they'd been studying weren't just the remnants of a long-dead civilization. They were the dormant cocoons of a species that had been waiting, all this time, for someone to find them. As the reality of their situation sank in, Elena realized that everything had changed. They had come to Kepler 186 to establish humanity's first extrasolar colony. Instead, they had stumbled into first contact with an alien species beyond their wildest imaginations. Over the next few weeks, the colony was transformed. The Tsar Kali, it turned out, were as curious about humans as the humans were about them. They shared knowledge freely, helping the colonists understand the planet's complex ecosystem and showing them technologies that seemed like magic. But as Elena learned more about the Zarkali and their history, she couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. Why had they gone into hibernation in the first place? What threat had been so great that an entire civilization chose to sleep for millennia, waiting for someone to wake them? The answer came on a quiet evening, as Elena sat with the Zarkali elder, whose name translated roughly to Whisper of Starlight. Our people were once numerous, Whisper said, its form shimmering in the alien twilight. We spread across many worlds, built wonders that touched the very fabric of space and time. But we were not alone in the galaxy. Elena leaned forward, hanging on every word. You mean there were other alien civilizations? Whisper's form darkened, a visual representation of the sadness in its mental voice. Yes, many. Some, like yours, were young and full of potential. Others were old, set in their ways. And some were hungry. A chill ran down Elena's spine. Hungry. They came from the darkness between the stars, Whisper continued. A species that fed on the very essence of sentient beings. They consumed entire civilizations, leaving nothing but empty husks of worlds in their wake. Elena felt her heart racing. And they came for you, for the Zarkali. Whisper nodded, or at least made a gesture that Elena interpreted as a nod. We fought for centuries, but they were relentless, endless. In the end, we realized we could not win, not then, so we made a choice. You went into hibernation, Elena said, the pieces falling into place. You hid yourselves away, waiting for what? For someone to wake you. For the galaxy to change, Whisper replied. For new allies, new technologies, new hope. We left beacons, like the one you found, scattered across the worlds we once called home, waiting for a species with the potential to stand against the darkness. Elena sat back, her mind reeling. And you think that's us? Humans. Whisper's form brightened slightly. You have traveled across the stars, Elena Reyes. You have faced the unknown with courage and curiosity. You have awakened us, and in doing so, you have given us hope. As the implications of Whisper's words sank in, Elena felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders once more. They had come to Kepler 186 to establish a colony, to take humanity's first steps into the wider galaxy. Instead, they had stumbled into an ancient conflict, one that threatened not just their small outpost, but potentially every sentient species in the galaxy. The comm unit on her wrist beeped, startling her out of her thoughts. It was Jared, his voice tense. Commander, we're picking up some strange readings from the long-range sensors. You need to see this. Elena stood, nodding to Whisper. Duty calls, she said, managing a small smile. As she hurried back to the command center, Elena's mind raced. Whatever was coming, whether it was the ancient enemy Whisper had spoken of or some new, unknown threat, she knew that the fate of two species, maybe more, now rested in her hands. The silent frontier had awakened, and its whispers were quickly becoming a roar. Humanity's first steps into the galactic community were going to be a trial by fire. But as Elena looked around at her team, at the strange and wonderful allies they had found on this distant world, she felt a glimmer of hope. They had come here to make history. Now, they were going to have to fight to ensure there was a future in which that history could be remembered. The Awakening. Commander Elena Reyes stood at the center of the colony's command hub, her eyes fixed on the holographic display that dominated the room. The long-range sensors had picked up something massive approaching the Kepler 186s system, and with each passing hour, the picture became clearer and more terrifying. What are we looking at, Jared? Elena asked, her voice tight with tension. Captain Chen manipulated the hologram, zooming in on the approaching object. It's like nothing we've ever seen, Commander. The size, it's almost beyond comprehension. Early estimates put it at roughly the mass of a small moon. Dr. Amelia Okoy spoke up from her station, her eyes never leaving her data screens. The energy readings are off the charts. Whatever this thing is, it's not natural. Helena felt a chill run down her spine. She turned to the shimmering form of Whisper, the Zarkali elder who had become a constant presence in the command hub since their awakening. Is this them? The enemy you spoke of? Whisper's form darkened, a visual representation of their distress. Yes, the Devourers have returned. They must have detected our awakening. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity's first extrasolar colony, barely established, now faced a threat of unimaginable proportions. Elena took a deep breath, steeling herself. This was the moment she had trained for, the reason she had been chosen to lead this mission. All right, people, I need options. What are our defenses? Jared shook his head grimly. We're a scientific expedition, Commander. We have some basic point defense systems for meteorites and space debris, but nothing that could even scratch something of that size. The Zarkali, Amelia interjected. They must have fought these Devourers before. Do you have any weapons? Any defenses we could use? Whisper's form rippled, their mental voice tinged with regret. Our weapons, our great machines of war, were dismantled or hidden away when we entered our long sleep. But there may be something, a last resort we never had the chance to use. Elena leaned forward, hope kindling in her chest. What is it? A device, Whisper explained, created in the final days of our war. It was designed to rewrite reality itself, to change the very laws of physics in a localized area. Amelia's eyes widened. That's impossible. The energy requirements alone. For your science, perhaps, Whisper acknowledged. But we had millennia to perfect our understanding of the universe. This device was to be our final stand, a way to create a space where the Devourers could not exist. Helena's mind raced with the possibilities. Where is this device? Can we use it? Whisper's form brightened slightly. It lies dormant, deep beneath the surface of this world. But to activate it would require a joining of minds, a melding of Zarkali and human consciousness. It is not without risk. Elena nodded, her decision already made. I'll do it. Whatever it takes to protect our people, both human and Zarkali. The next few hours were a blur of activity. As the colony prepared for the approaching threat, Elena and a team of volunteers followed Whisper deep into the planet's crust. They descended through twisting tunnels, lined with the same shimmering, ever-changing material as the Zarkali structures on the surface. Finally, they reached a vast chamber, at the center of which stood a structure that defied description. It seemed to exist in more dimensions than Elena's mind could comprehend, its surfaces shifting and folding in on themselves in impossible ways. This is the Nexus, Whisper explained, the focal point of our final hope. Elena approached the device, her heart pounding. What do I need to do? Place your hand upon it, Whisper instructed. Open your mind. I will guide you through the rest. Taking a deep breath, Elena reached out and touched the Nexus. Instantly, her world exploded into light and sensation. She felt her consciousness expanding, merging with something vast and ancient. Whisper's presence was there, a guiding light in an ocean of information too vast for any human mind to comprehend. Through this expanded awareness, Elena could sense the approaching Devourer ship. She could feel the hunger that drove it, the cold, alien intelligence that saw all other life as nothing more than food. But she could also sense something else, a weakness, a flaw in its seemingly impenetrable defenses. With Whisper's guidance, Elena focused the unimaginable energies of the Nexus. Reality itself seemed to bend and warp around them. In the space around Kepler 186f, the laws of physics began to change, reshaping themselves according to the combined will of human determination and Zarkali wisdom. On the surface, the colonists watched in awe as the sky itself seemed to ripple and change. The massive form of the Devourer ship appeared, filling the horizon, and then began to distort, its very substance rebelling against the new rules of reality that now governed this space. In the chamber of the Nexus, Helena screamed as the full weight of what they were doing crashed over her. It felt like her mind was being torn apart and remade with every passing second. But she held on, driven by a determination that went beyond mere human stubbornness. This was about survival, not just for her colony, not just for Earth, but for every sentient species that would ever dare to reach for the stars. With a final, reality-shaking pulse of energy, it was done. The Devourer ship, caught in a bubble of space where its very existence was impossible, simply ceased to be. Not destroyed, not defeated, but erased from a universe that no longer had a place for it. As the energies of the Nexus subsided, Elena collapsed, her mind reeling from the experience. She had touched the very fabric of the cosmos, had rewritten the laws of physics themselves, and in doing so, she had saved not just her colony, but perhaps the entire galaxy from a threat it had never even known existed. In the days that followed, as Elena recovered and the full implications of what had happened began to sink in, the colony found itself changed. Humans and Zarkali worked side by side, their knowledge and technologies blending in ways that pushed the boundaries of what either species had thought possible. Word was sent back to Earth, carried by faster-than-light communications technology gifted by the Zarkali. Humanity learned that it was not alone in the universe, and that it had already played a pivotal role in a conflict beyond its imagining. As Elena stood on a hill overlooking the rapidly expanding colony, Whisper's shimmering form beside her, she couldn't help but smile. They had come to Kepler 186 to establish humanity's first foothold among the stars. Instead, they had found allies, unlocked secrets of the universe, and taken the first steps towards a future where the combined strengths of humanity and the Zarkali might reshape the very face of the galaxy. The silent frontier was silent no more, and in its awakening, a new chapter in the history of not just humanity, but of all sentient life had begun. Ripples across the stars. The news of the events on Kepler 186 spread across the galaxy like ripples in a cosmic pond. Humanity, once isolated and alone, found itself thrust onto an interstellar stage it had scarcely imagined existed. The activation of the Nexus and the defeat of the Devourer ship had sent shockwaves through the delicate political balance of the galactic community. Commander Elena Reyes stood before a holographic display in the newly constructed diplomatic center, her eyes scanning the faces of alien representatives from a dozen different species. Some appeared almost human, while others defied easy description. All wore expressions of mixed awe and concern. And that concludes our report on the Kepler 186th incident, Elena finished, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. We stand ready to answer any questions the Council may have. For a moment, silence reigned. Then, a being that appeared to be composed entirely of shimmering light stepped forward. Its voice, when it spoke, seemed to resonate directly in Elena's mind. "We of the Luminary Collective have long monitored the younger races," it said. "We observed your species' first tentative steps into space. Never did we imagine you would so quickly become entangled in conflicts that have shaped our galaxy for eons." Elena nodded respectfully. "Humanity has always been adaptable. It's one of our greatest strengths." Another representative, this one a mass of writhing tentacles surrounding a central eye, spoke next. "Adaptable, yes, but also dangerous. You wielded power beyond your comprehension. The activation of a Nexus device is no small matter. You could have torn reality itself asunder." Before Elena could respond, Whisper's shimmering form appeared beside her. The humans acted to save not just themselves, but all sentient life. They faced a threat that has haunted our galaxy for millennia, and they prevailed where others failed. The chamber erupted into a cacophony of voices and telepathic communications. Elena stood her ground, her chin raised, as accusations and praises were hurled from all directions. This, she realized, was the true test. Not the battle against the Devourers, but the aftermath, the delicate dance of interstellar diplomacy. As the debates raged on, Elena found her thoughts drifting back to the colony on Kepler 186 Spath. In the months since the Nexus incident, the settlement had grown exponentially. Humans and Zarkali worked side by side, their combined knowledge pushing the boundaries of science and technology. But more than that, other species had begun to arrive. Refugees, scientists, and explorers, all drawn by the promise of this new alliance. A sharp mental prod from Whisper brought Elena's attention back to the present. The Luminary representative was addressing her directly. "Commander Reyes," it said, its light pulsing with each word, "your actions have irrevocably altered the course of galactic history. The question now is, what do you intend to do with the power you have stumbled upon?" Elena took a deep breath, weighing her words carefully. "We came to Kepler 186 to learn, to explore. That hasn't changed. But we've discovered that the galaxy is far more complex, far more dangerous than we ever imagined. We don't seek power for its own sake. We seek understanding, cooperation, and a way to ensure the safety of all sentient life." The tentacled being's eye narrowed. "Noble words, but can you back them up with actions?" "We already have," Elena replied, her voice firm. "We could have kept the Nexus technology to ourselves. We could have used it to dominate. Instead, we're here, standing before you, offering to share our knowledge and work together." A new voice joined the conversation, deep, resonant, and somehow ancient. A being stepped forward, its form constantly shifting between solid and gaseous states. "I am Zephyr of the Aetherian Conclave," it announced. "We have observed these humans and their actions. While their methods may be unorthodox, their intentions appear pure." The chamber fell silent, all attention focused on Zephyr. The Aetherians were known throughout the galaxy as arbiters and peacekeepers, their wisdom respected by all. "We propose," Zephyr continued, "a period of probation. Let the humans and their Zarkali allies continue their work on Kepler 186F, but under the observation of a galactic peacekeeping force. Let us learn from each other, grow together, and face the threats that loom in the darkness between the stars as a united front." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembled representatives. Elena felt a weight lift from her shoulders. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. A chance to prove that humanity could be a positive force in this vast, complex galactic community. As the council session adjourned, Elena found herself surrounded by curious alien diplomats, all eager to learn more about Earth and its people. She answered their questions as best she could, marveling at the diversity of life and culture represented in this single room. Later, as she prepared to return to Kepler 186F, Elena stood alone on an observation deck, gazing out at the star-filled void. Whisper's form shimmered into existence beside her. "You handled that well," the Zarkali said, a note of pride in their mental voice. "Many species would have crumbled under such scrutiny." Elena smiled wryly. "Humans are nothing if not stubborn. We've faced extinction-level events on our own world more times than I can count. Somehow, we always find a way to pull through." Whisper's form rippled in what Elena had come to recognize as laughter. "Perhaps that is why the Nexus responded so strongly to you. Your species' will to survive, to thrive against all odds, is remarkable." As they stood there, watching distant suns twinkle in the void, Elena felt a sense of profound change settling over her. Humanity had taken its first real steps into a larger universe, one filled with wonders and terrors beyond imagination. The path ahead would not be easy, but for the first time, they would not walk it alone. "Come on," Elena said, turning away from the viewport. "We've got work to do. A whole galaxy of it, in fact." As they made their way to the shuttle bay, Elena's mind raced with plans and possibilities. The colony on Kepler 186 would need to be expanded, new technologies integrated, diplomatic protocols established. But more than that, they needed to prepare. The Devourers had been defeated once, but Elena knew that greater challenges lay ahead. Humanity had proven itself on the galactic stage. Now, It was time to show the universe what they could really do. As the shuttle broke orbit, carrying them back to Kepler 186f, Elena allowed herself a small smile. The silent frontier had awakened, and with it, a new era of exploration, cooperation, and discovery had begun. The echoes of humanity's first steps among the stars would resonate for eons to come. Forging the future, the twin suns of Kepler 186 cast long shadows across the bustling metropolis that had sprung up around the original colony site. In just a few short years, what had begun as a small outpost of humanity had transformed into a thriving interstellar hub. Gleaming spires of human design stood alongside the fluid, organic structures of the Zarkali, while beings from a dozen different species moved through the streets, each adding their own unique touch to the vibrant tapestry of life. Commander Elena Reyes, now bearing the title of governor, stood atop the newly completed Harmony Tower, the seat of the planet's government. Beside her, Whisper's shimmering form pulsed with contentment. "It's remarkable," Whisper said, their mental voice filled with wonder. "In all our ends of existence, we never imagined a place like this. A true fusion of species and cultures." Elena nodded, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Humanity has always had a knack for adapting, for bringing people together. Though I have to admit, even I'm a little surprised at how quickly things have progressed. Their moment of reflection was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Amelia Okoye, now the head of the Kepler 186 Science Academy. "Governor," she said, slightly out of breath, "we've just received a transmission from the Etherian observation post. You're going to want to see this." Minutes later, Elena stood in the holographic command center, surrounded by her advisors, human, Zarkali, and representatives from several other species that had chosen to make Kepler 186 their home. The image before them showed a vast swath of space, dotted with stars and nebulae. And at the edge of that space, a disturbance, a ripple in the very fabric of reality. "It's them, isn't it?" Elena asked, her voice tight. The Devourers, Zephyr, the Etherian representative who had become a close ally, nodded gravely. "Yes, our long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet, larger than anything we've ever encountered. They're moving slowly, consuming everything in their path, but their trajectory is clear. They're heading straight for the heart of populated space." A heavy silence fell over the room. The defeat of the single Devourer ship years ago had been a monumental achievement, but this was an existential threat to every sentient species in the galaxy. "How long do we have?" Captain Jared Chen asked, his face grim. "At their current speed, approximately 2 standard years," Zephyr replied. "But that's assuming they maintain their current course and don't accelerate." Elena's mind raced, considering and discarding plans almost as quickly as they formed. "The Nexus," she said finally. "Could we use it again on a larger scale?" Whisper's form darkened. The energy requirements would be astronomical, and the risk of tearing apart the fabric of spacetime itself would increase exponentially. "Not to mention," Amelia added, "we still don't fully understand how the Nexus works. Using it on that scale could have unforeseen consequences across the entire galaxy." Elena nodded, acknowledging their points. "Then we need alternatives. I want every scientist, every engineer, every brilliant mind we have working on this. We beat them once. We can do it again." The next months were a whirlwind of activity. Kepler 186 became the nerve center of galactic defense efforts. Ships arrived daily, bringing resources, technology, and experts from hundreds of worlds. The Science Academy worked around the clock, pushing the boundaries of physics and engineering. One breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A young human scientist, working in collaboration with a Zarkali elder, developed a way to harness the energy of quantum fluctuations. The technology was experimental, dangerous even, but it offered a glimmer of hope. "If we can generate enough energy," the scientist explained to Elena and the gathered leaders, We might be able to create a barrier, a sort of galactic shield that could halt the Devourer's advance. And the risks? Elena asked, already knowing the answer. The scientist swallowed hard. Significant. If the calculations are off even slightly, we could inadvertently create a cascade of black holes across the galaxy. Elena felt the weight of responsibility settle heavily on her shoulders. This was no longer about just humanity, or even their allies on Kepler 186f. The fate of every sentient being in the galaxy hung in the balance. We need to test it, she said finally. But not here. We'll need to find an uninhabited system, far from any populated worlds. The test, when it came, was both a triumph and a sobering reminder of the forces they were dealing with. The barrier worked, successfully repelling a simulated devourer attack, but the energy release had torn a hole in space-time, creating a swirling vortex that threatened to consume everything around it. It took the combined efforts of human ingenuity, Zarkali wisdom, and Etherian technology to contain the rift. As Elena watched the swirling energies slowly dissipate, she knew they had crossed a threshold. There was no going back now. We need to refine it, she told her team. Make it more stable, more controllable, and we need to do it fast. As the deadline approached, tensions ran high. The galactic community, once fractured and distrustful, had united in the face of this common threat. But unity alone wouldn't be enough. They needed a miracle. It came, as so many breakthroughs do, in the quiet hours of the night. Elena was awakened by an urgent message from the Science Academy. Amelia, her eyes bright with a mix of exhaustion and excitement, led her to a secure lab deep beneath the city. "We've done it," Amelia said, her voice trembling with emotion. "We found a way to channel the Nexus energy through the quantum barrier. It's not just a shield anymore, it's a weapon." Elena stared at the pulsing device before her, a fusion of technologies from a dozen different species. "Will it work?" she asked simply. Amelia nodded. "The simulations are promising. But Elena, using this on the scale we're talking about, it will change everything. The very nature of space-time in our galaxy will be altered." Elena closed her eyes, feeling the weight of history pressing down upon her. When she opened them again, her gaze was steel. "Send out the call," she said. "It's time to make our stand." As ships gathered from across the galaxy, as final preparations were made, Elena found herself once again standing atop Harmony Tower. The city below bustled with activity, beings from 100 worlds working together in common cause. Whisper appeared beside her, their forms shimmering with anticipation. "Are you ready?" they asked. Elena took a deep breath, gazing out at the alien sky that had become her home. "No," she said honestly, "but that's never stopped humanity before." As the first reports of the Devourer fleet entering the outer reaches of their space came in, Elena felt a strange calm settle over her. Whatever happened next, she knew that they had already achieved something remarkable. They had brought the galaxy together, forged alliances that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. The silent frontier was silent no more, and as humanity prepared to face its greatest challenge yet, Elena Reyes knew that they would face it not alone, but as part of something greater, a united galaxy standing strong against the darkness. The future, uncertain as it was, beckoned, and humanity, along with its new allies, was ready to answer the call. The battle for tomorrow. The vast emptiness of space erupted into a cacophony of light and energy as the combined fleets of the galaxy engaged the Devourer Armada. Ships of every size and design, representing dozens of species and civilizations, moved in intricate patterns, their weapons flaring against the backdrop of stars. At the heart of the defensive line, the flagship Terran Hope hung in space, its hull a patchwork of human and alien technologies. On its bridge, Governor Elena Reyes stood resolute, surrounded by a diverse crew of beings from across the galaxy. "Status report," Elena commanded, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the unfolding battle. Captain Jared Chen, his face etched with tension, responded quickly. The first wave of devourers has engaged our outer defenses. We're holding but barely. Their numbers are overwhelming. Whisper, their form shimmering with barely contained energy, added, the quantum barrier is stable for now, but the strain on the generators is immense. We cannot maintain this level of output indefinitely. Elena nodded grimly. They had known this would be a fight against impossible odds. But humanity had faced impossible odds before, so had many of the species now fighting alongside them. Together they had a chance. Prepare the Nexus device, Elena ordered. We need to time this perfectly. As the battle raged on, the true horror of the Devourers became apparent. Their ships, if they could be called that, were more like living organisms, adapting and evolving even as they fought. Traditional weapons seemed to grow less effective with each passing moment as the Devourers learned and adjusted their defenses. But the Allied forces had surprises of their own. Zarkeli phase shift technology allowed ships to slip through the Devourers' defenses. Etherian gravity weapons created localized singularities, tearing apart enemy vessels. And at the center of it all, human ingenuity tied these disparate technologies together into a cohesive strategy. Hours passed, and the tide of battle ebbed and flowed. For every Devourer ship destroyed, it seemed two more took its place. The quantum barrier flickered dangerously as the enemy pressed their attack. Governor, Dr. Amelia Okoi's voice came through the comm, strained but determined. The Nexus device is ready, but we have a problem. The power requirements are even higher than we anticipated. We need more energy, or the device will tear itself apart before it can activate. Elena's mind raced. They were so close, but without enough power, all their preparations would be for nothing. That's when an idea struck her, dangerous, perhaps suicidal, but possibly their only chance. The ships, she said, her voice cutting through the chaos of the bridge. We can use the ships. Jared looked at her, confusion evident on his face. What do you mean? If we detonate the power cores of our largest ships simultaneously, channel that energy into the Nexus device. Elena explained, the plan forming even as she spoke. Whisper's form pulsed with understanding. It could work, but the ships closest to the device, including this one, would be destroyed, Elena finished. I know. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. What Elena was proposing was more than just a tactical decision. It was asking thousands of beings to sacrifice themselves for a chance, just a chance, at victory. Elena took a deep breath. Open a channel to the entire fleet. As the communications officer complied, Elena stood straight, her voice clear and unwavering as she addressed not just her crew, but every being fighting alongside them. This is Governor Elena Reyes. In the face of unimaginable odds, you have all fought with courage and determination that humbles me. But now I must ask one final sacrifice. She explained the plan quickly, not sugarcoating the risks or the certainty of loss. I cannot order anyone to do this. I can only ask. For those who choose to stay, know that your sacrifice will not be in vain. For those who wish to retreat, do so now, with our gratitude and blessings. Elena waited, her heart pounding, for the responses to come in. They trickled in at first, then flooded the communications channels. Ship after ship, crew after crew, pledged themselves to the plan. Not a single vessel retreated. Tears pricked at Elena's eyes, but she blinked them back. There would be time for grief later, if they survived. Prepare for final maneuvers, she ordered. Nexus control, stand by for power influx. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. Ships moved into position, their crews working feverishly to prepare their power cores for simultaneous detonation. The Devourers, sensing something amiss, pressed their attack with renewed vigor. All ships in position, Jared reported, awaiting your command, Governor. Elena took one last look around the bridge, at the faces of beings from a dozen worlds, all united in this moment. It has been my honor to serve with you all, she said softly. Then, her voice strong and clear, initiate nexus sequence for the galaxy. The universe seemed to hold its breath for a moment. Then, in a blinding flash of light and energy, the Allied ships detonated their cores. The Nexus device, fueled by this tremendous influx of power, surged to life. Reality itself seemed to warp and bend. A wave of energy, unlike anything ever seen before, swept outward from the device. Where it touched the Devourer ships, they simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, but erased from the very fabric of space-time. On the bridge of the Terran Hope, alarms blared as systems overloaded and failed. Elena held onto her station, watching through the viewscreen as the wave of energy approached. She closed her eyes, thinking of Earth, of Kepler 186f, of all the worlds and beings they had fought to protect. The wave hit, and for Elena, everything went white. When she opened her eyes again, she found herself floating in a void, surrounded by pinpricks of light that might have been stars. Whisper's form shimmered beside her, and other shapes, beings she recognized from the bridge, began to coalesce around them. Did we succeed? Elena asked, her voice echoing strangely in this impossible space. Whisper's form pulsed with what might have been laughter. Yes and no. The Devourers are gone, erased from our reality. But in doing so, we have changed. As Whisper spoke, Elena began to understand. They had not died, not exactly. In that moment of unimaginable energy, as the laws of physics were rewritten, they had been transformed, ascended, perhaps, to a higher plane of existence. What happens now? Jared asked, his form slowly taking shape nearby. Now, Whisper said, we watch, we guide, we ensure that the sacrifice made today is honored, and that the unity forged in the face of extinction is not forgotten. As Elena watched, the void around them began to shift and change. She saw glimpses of the galaxy, worlds rebuilding, species coming together, a new era of peace and cooperation dawning. Humanity's first steps into the galaxy were just the beginning, Elena mused. Now the real journey starts. The beings around her murmured in agreement. They had faced the darkness together, and in doing so, had become something greater than any one species could have imagined. As they settled into their new existence, Elena felt a profound sense of peace. The silent frontier had awakened, and its song was one of unity, of hope, of endless possibility. The echo of humanity's great leap would resonate across the cosmos for eternity, a testament to the indomitable spirit of not just one species, but of all those who dared to reach for the stars.